it's me, Mackenzie Marie. Have you ever dated someone who wanted to kill you? This is one of the most severe stalking cases. Dating, rejection, home invasion, and murder. This is the true story of Daniel Laplant. In 1970, Daniel Laplant was born in Townsend, Massachusetts. From the beginning of his life, it was unstable. His father was known to be verbally and physically abusive. And because of the abuse, Daniel was sent to live with his mother and stepfather. But that didn't solve anything because it was also an unstable household. Teachers and school counselors noticed very early on that Daniel did not act like other kids his age. He struggled academically. He also had difficulty socializing and was often described as withdrawn or strange. As Daniel got older, his behavior continued to raise alarms. He was diagnosed with multiple mental health disorders. He struggled with delusions, paranoia. He also showed traits of antisocial personality disorder, which is commonly linked to lack of empathy and the difficulty to form emotional connections with others. He was a kid going through severe abuse while simultaneously developing mental health disorders that were never addressed. Multiple people later reported he had a habit of killing small animals. And this wasn't a one-time incident. It was a reoccurring habit. And at the age of 14, he started committing small burglaries around his neighborhood. At first, it looked like a typical break-in. Missing money, stolen items, things moving around the house. But what made Daniel different was why he was doing this. He wasn't just stealing. He was watching people. In several of these break-ins, Daniel didn't even take anything. He would just move objects, flip picture frames around, open drawers, leave things slightly different. He wanted the people living there to notice, to feel like someone had been there. And when Daniel was around 16 years old, he managed to get the phone number of a girl named Tina Bowen, probably from a phone book, because back then they had phone books where you would have your name, your phone number, and where you lived. Great idea. Also terrifying idea. He got Tina's number and he started calling her. He would talk to her for hours on the phone and they started to develop a relationship. And through those conversations, he created this version of himself. He told her he was tall, athletic, good looking, and that he came from a good family. And eventually, they agreed to go on a date. So Tina's expecting the guy she heard on the phone. But when Daniel showed up at her house, it was not the person she thought she was talking to on the phone. He looked completely different than how he described himself. He was unkempt, his clothes were dirty, his hair was greasy, he had a lot of noticeable acne, and the biggest thing was that he clearly did not care about his hygiene. And look, not to be dramatic, but if you're gonna go on a date, at least take a shower before you show up. And I'm not talking about the body spray kind of shower, like an actual shower. Anyways, the date was uncomfortable. Tina later said that he barely talked, barely made eye contact, and that the energy was just off. He wasn't charming or easy to talk to like he was on the phone. He was quiet, stiff, almost like he was observing her instead of interacting with her. And she didn't feel a connection, and sometimes that happens. But in this case, it mattered. Because at some point during the date, Tina brings up her mother, who had just passed away from cancer. And this is the moment where the story shifts. Daniel became fixated on her mother's death, asking her all sorts of questions. Creepy. Even though the first date was uncomfortable, Tina continued to go out with this guy. And so they hung out a couple more times. Daniel wasn't talkative, he wasn't warm, he wasn't someone you could relax around. And she would go on to describe him as empty, like he was studying her. Over time, Tina realized it and she just wasn't into it. So she did what any normal girl would do. She cut him off. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't hostile. She simply told him she just wasn't interested anymore. And that should have been the end of it. But for Daniel, this wasn't rejection. He didn't take it like, oh, we're just not a good match. Because at this point, homeboy is like in love with her, obsessed with her. And when she cut things off, he didn't just walk away. He waited, he watched, and then he managed to find a way back in. And in March of 1980, something happened in Tina's house that would completely change everything. Tina and her sister were still grieving the loss of their mother. They missed her and they wanted some kind of connection with her. So they decided to play the Ouija board. And honestly, I totally get it. So they sat down together and they tried to contact their mom on the board. They asked questions, they waited, they listened, and then they started hearing knocking. Not from the floor, not from the ceiling, from inside the wall. At first, it sounded small, like a tapping. Then it got louder and more deliberate. This wasn't one of them messing around. This wasn't the house settling. This was knocking, responding to them. It freaked them out so much that they immediately ended the seance and they put the board away. But the knocking didn't stop. Even after they put the board away, even after they calmed down, even after they were out of the room, the sound continued from inside the wall, like something or someone was still there. The girls believed fully that they had just contacted a spirit. But what they didn't know was that this wasn't their mother. This wasn't a ghost or a demon. This was someone inside of their house. Someone who had been there long before that night. Someone who was watching them, listening to them, waiting. And that someone was Daniel Laplant. After that night, things did not go back to normal. In fact, they actually got worse. Over the next few months, strange things started happening in Tina's house. The girls would leave the house, and when they would come back, furniture would be moved around. Clothes would be taken out of drawers. Personal items would go missing, and then they would reappear somewhere else. While Tina and her family were asleep at night, Daniel would come out of his hiding spot behind the wall and he would go into the kitchen and he would eat some food, make something for himself. He would go inside the family room, watch TV, leave the TV on, go back to bed. They would wake up, TV's on, the door's open, there's food on the countertop, and sometimes he would even watch Tina sleep. And if that's not terrifying enough, then the messages started, written on the walls. Things like, "I'm still here, come find me." He even left a message in Tina's room one time saying, "Marry me." They were terrified, but they also didn't want to believe the worst because the alternative, the truth, was much more terrifying. He was watching them live their lives from inside the wall for months. 8 months into Daniel living in the walls of their home, all it took was one night to unravel the truth. So Tina and her sister come home from school one day and they hear what sounds like someone using the bathroom, like flushing the toilet and the water going through the pipes. So the girls freak out, they call dad, dad comes rushing home. Now their dad didn't really believe them that something was going on, so to be a good dad, he was like, all right, I'm gonna look through the house, and he did notice that some things were rearranged, and he's walking through room to room and he's like, is somebody here? Somebody show yourself. And then he gets to Tina's bedroom and he opens up the door to her wardrobe and he finds Daniel in there. He didn't look like that shy, quiet boy that Tina had gone on a date with. He had spiked hair and face paint on, and in one hand he had an axe. So calmly, with the axe in his hand, he tells everyone to go into one of the upstairs bedrooms. And when the dad had a moment, he held Daniel off and the girls escaped out of the house through a top floor bedroom window. Daniel didn't chase them. No, he actually ran back through the house and into his hiding spot in the crawl space where he knew the police wouldn't find him. So they call the police and the officers search the home, but Daniel's already hidden. He's not found. 2 days later, Tina's dad goes back to the house, and when he pulls up to the house, he looks and sees in the window there's someone standing in there. He goes inside, and that's when he finds a knife in the wall with a message that reads, "I'm going to kill all of you." The father immediately calls the police, and this time they search deeper, and eventually they find it. The panel leading to the crawl space. They open it and there he is. So they pull him out and he's arrested. But what no one knows yet is Daniel's not done. In fact, the worst part of the story is still coming. So Daniel's sent to a juvenile detention center and he ends up serving 10 months. Now, this is the part where you expect the story to end, right? The kid gets caught living in the walls, he gets locked up, he gets evaluated, he gets help. But that is not what happened. After those 10 months, Daniel was released. And instead of getting treatment or supervision, he was just out. And almost immediately, he starts breaking into people's houses again. Only this time, he wasn't just moving furniture around. He was stealing guns. He was arming himself. This was no longer obsession. This was preparation. And on December 1st, 1987, Daniel broke into the home of the Gustavson family, a family who only lived a few miles away. And here's what makes this even more chilling. The father, Andrew Gustavson, he worked in the legal system connected to Daniel's case he just got let out on. Yeah. And when Daniel gets there, Andrew's not home, but his pregnant wife, Priscilla, and their 2 children are. And there was no signs of forced entry. He either entered through an unlocked door, or he was watching them long enough to know how to get in the house without being detected. At some point inside the house, Daniel confronts Priscilla, and it's just horrific. She was found in her bedroom. Evidence showed she had been sexually assaulted and then shot multiple times. And after killing Priscilla, Daniel then went to the children. And this part is just devastating. 7-year-old Abigail was found dead in the upstairs bathtub. 5-year-old William was found dead in the downstairs bathtub. He most likely drowned them separately because he didn't want the other one to see what was going to happen to them. After that, Daniel didn't just run from the house. He went downstairs into their fridge, cracked open the beer, sat down, and enjoyed it. And when he was ready to go, he left the half-empty can on the countertop. Andrew returned home later that evening and he found his wife Priscilla, and you can only imagine. So the police launched a statewide manhunt looking for Daniel, one of the largest manhunts that Massachusetts had ever done at the time. Neighborhoods were told to lock their doors and to stay inside. So this kid, Daniel, this idiot, he decides he's gonna hijack a woman's car. Clearly not the sharpest tool in the shed. No brain cells are here. Boy did not know how to drive a car, and he's telling the woman where to drive. And eventually, he just lets her go unharmed. She's obviously gonna call the cops and tell them what just happened. The police know he's still armed, he's still on the run. But now he's getting desperate. After ditching the van, Daniel flees into the nearby woods. It's the winter time. He has no supplies, no shelter, and for 48 hours, they track him down. And finally, they find him at a lumber yard in a dumpster. Cold, dirty, exhausted, no dramatic shootout, no confrontation, just caught. And when the police searched Daniel and all the places he had been fighting, they found all the evidence they needed. The handgun he used to kill Priscilla, items stolen from the Gustavson's family home, clothes fibers and materials matching the scene, and his fingerprints, all inside the house. The evidence was direct and overwhelming. Daniel Plant was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder for Priscilla Gustavson, Abigail, and William. He was found guilty on all charges, and the court sentenced him to 3 life sentences in prison without the possibility of parole. The boy who hid inside the walls would now be living the rest of his life behind them. And in 2012, he filed a resentencing hearing, claiming that because he was a teenager at the time of the killing, his brain wasn't fully developed. He stood in the courtroom and tried to paint himself as a changed man, someone who had matured, someone who had reflected, someone who had grown. He even tried to express remorse, but it didn't match the reality of his behavior. Specialists said there was no way he could truly feel remorse, and the judge just denied his request. Daniel Laplant is a monster, and I think he is right where he belongs. If you found this story interesting, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. It lets me know that you enjoy videos like this, so I make more videos like it. If you're interested in true crime stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to my channel down below so you can catch the next one. You can follow me on any of my social medias at Mackenzie Marie, and if you haven't yet, make sure to go stream my new music. It will be linked down below in the top of the description. I'm Mackenzie Marie. Until next time, stay safe out there, friends. Toodles!